The dish I'm cooking today is based around the land and sea. I'm going to make a Machair Curry. Now the word Machair simply means grazing land around the shores. So today the dish I'm making is going to be Muir agus tir, sea and land. In front of me I have 500 grams of diced lamb from Charlie Barley's. I've got some lovely langoustine tails and potatoes from my own garden which were picked no more than 10 minutes ago. So that is our land and sea components. Now with any good curry, we need to start off with our base. Now the base is nice and simple. We'll start off with 2 large onions, followed by 4 fat cloves of garlic. Now this is the important part where people sort of panic a wee bit when it comes to making curry for themselves or other people. It's the heat element. I'm adding 2 red chilies to this, which have been de-seeded. If you like it milder, just add 1. Or with the seeds hotter, it's really up to you. I'm adding the 2 de-seeded. I'm just after that, even the smell, the fruitiness of the chili, that's what I'm after. So that's going to start the base of this paste off. To that, I've got 2 inches of ginger. Now I've just grated it, and all I want is a juice from it. So I don't really want the fibrous bits running through the curry itself. I find it rather unpleasant. Have that. I'm just simply going to whiz that up. Just stop a minute and just scrape down the sides. We want it as smooth as possible. And there we have it. Heavy base pan. We're going to take our basic starting point for the paste and get that into the pan. So we're going to put that onto the heat and we're just going to take it down. We're going to cook it nice and slowly until most of the liquid has evaporated from the pan. So I'll set it aside for just now. Our spices. So we've got the heat from the chili itself. Again, it's up to you what level of heat you want to add to the dish itself. Now the warm spices. I've got 1 teaspoon of coriander, 1 teaspoon of cumin, 1 teaspoon of turmeric. Turmeric's going to give it a nice earthy depth to it. Half a teaspoon of fennel seeds and 1 cinnamon stick. The other component, now I've got behind me a pan of heavily salted boiling water on the go just now. We're going to take our langoustines and we're going to remove the dirt track from them. Hopefully it should, yep, I knew that would happen, not to worry. What we'll do is, we'll try another one. There we have it, so we'll remove that from all the prawns. If there's some that get through, like you can't remove, we will catch that once they've been blanched. Now when I say blanched, I'm going to plunge these into the water for no more than 20 seconds, then straight into cold water. That's just going to cook them very lightly and it'll make it easier for peeling them. And then when it comes to nearing the end of the cooking of the dish, we'll add the prawns to the dish and that will finish off the prawns nicely without overcooking. So we're going to start the paste off on the heat and get that reducing right down. So now the base paste is almost dry. You can see now all the moisture has come out. I'm now going to add a couple of tablespoons of oil and then in with our spice. good mix. Again, it's important to remember as well, if you don't like spice in the curry, you can leave the chilies out because you're going to get plenty of warming flavours from the dry spice without the heat. So now our lamb in the pot. I want to incorporate that all, get a really good mix. There we have it. I'm going to season well with plenty of salt. We don't need any pepper on this just now. We've got the heat from the chilies. Now a 400 gram tin of chopped tomatoes. And just look at the consistency at the moment. What I'm going to do is to give this a wee helping hand, just a splash of water in there. Now once that comes up to simmer, I'm going to pop the lid on and we can just put it into the oven, and the oven will do all the cooking for us. Then in about an hour's time we'll check the lamb. Remember, it's long and slow, so after an hour we will then add the potatoes until everything's nice and tender. Now the oven is set at 170 and we'll come back to that in an hour. For our naan bread, I've got 500 grams of strong flour in the bowl. Now naan bread is basically flour, yogurt and yeast cooked in a tandoori oven. Now unfortunately I don't have access to a tandoori oven, but we're going to do it in the griddle pan instead, which will give us a nice smokiness to the bread itself. So 500 grams of strong flour in there with 1 teaspoon of sugar, 1 sachet of instant yeast. Give that a little mix. Now this is basically my own bread recipe, but just transformed into, or adapted into the naan bread itself, so we're keeping it really simple. Into the flour we want to add a good heaped teaspoon of caraway seeds. Now caraway seeds are going to add some citrusy, peppery, sort of aniseed notes to the bread itself. To the bowl we can add about 300 mils of yogurt, full fat, no messing about. And we're just going to start incorporating that. Now 300 mils should be enough, but if you think it's a bit too dry, just top it up a wee touch more. We'll just let that come together first before I go in with my hands. So it's basically just the same as doing the bread, the dough for the bread. So we just want to get it coming together first. Yeah, I'm going to add a touch more yogurt to that. Again, it's the kind of thing that's satisfying doing. At this stage you think, oh my goodness, just one big mess, but once it comes together and we start kneading, just a touch more. And now onto the worktop, and we're just going to knead it really well. And what will happen is, once it comes together, it'll be nice and elasticy and smooth. At this stage I like it wet and sticky like this, because as it proves, it will come together a bit more and the flour will absorb that yogurt. And the yeast itself will start working right away, and the caraway seeds will start to infuse our dough. So a good 5 minutes of kneading. And there we have it. You can see how smooth and elastic it is. And we've got a clean worktop as well. So no need to panic. So into our bowl, just back into the bowl, and we'll cover that with a damp dish towel and come back to it in about an hour. By then it'll have doubled in size. So now the prawns have been blanched for 20 seconds and been plunged into ice cold water. We can just start peeling them now. Now the easiest way to do this is to just squeeze. You can see these little sort of rib cages, if you want to call it, and just squeeze very gently, and just want to break that until, you don't want to be too forceful, you don't want to squash the prawn, and we just want to open it up like a little book, and then we remove the lovely meat inside, just like that. Bit of a tedious job, but again, just open it up like a little book. And remember as well, the dirt tracks we couldn't get out. All we would do is take a sharp knife and just down the back of it very lightly, just open it up slightly, and we can remove that dirt track then. So now it's had an hour in the oven. Let's just have a look at that. See, it's just almost sauce consistency now, and the lamb is not quite there yet, but we're getting there. Now the potatoes. What I've done is I've halved the potatoes. They were quite big. The reason I've halved them is A, well, they were too big, and B, I want the potatoes to take the flavour of the curry as well. If you were talking about something like that size, what you want to do is start them off cooking in about 10 or so minutes, go in with a spoon and just crush them lightly with a spoon. That'll break the skin. Now I want to keep the skin on the potatoes obviously for flavour, but if we just break that skin, then the sauce then will penetrate the potato and just flavour the potato. A nice little mix. Now at this point I'm going to give it a wee taste. Yep, I'm going to add a couple of tons of black pepper, just for that light pepper flavour, and a few more tons of salt. It. And we'll pop that back into the oven and come back to it in about half an hour. Now it's been over the hour now, and we can see now how the dough has doubled in size. So we're going to remove that from the bowl. You can see all the lovely air pockets in there. To that I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of salt. And we're going to give it another good kneading. You can see how the flour's really absorbed that, the yogurt, and it's not as sticky and wet anymore. It's lovely and elasticy. So just another 5 minutes of gentle kneading. And there we have it. Now the size of the naans is really up to you. I'm just going to take nice, even sized pieces. You can make large ones, you can make mini ones, it's really up to you. But we just want even size. If you're really particular, I'm sure you could put them on the scales. I think we'll stretch one extra out, a bit of there. Lovely. Onto the worktop, just dredge with flour. A gentle roll. And then with a rolling pin, I'm just going to start rolling it out, and it almost forms that natural teardrop shape as it is. And there we have it, just like that. You can see here it's slightly raised, which is okay as well, because it's going to get that sort of doughy on the sides, nice and thin. And I'm going to pop that over there for just now. And by the time we've rolled them all out, they would have slightly proved before they've even hit the pan. So I'll do one more just now. And the thing about these little parts as well is you can see how they've almost formed a lovely light air pocket as it is. So there we have our naan breads good to go. Behind me I've got the pan coming up to temperature, so we're going to get them onto the griddle right away. Now the griddle pan is lovely and hot, you can see how smoky it is. If you didn't have a griddle pan, you could use just a normal dry frying pan. So for our naans, straight onto the griddle. Yes, squeeze it in. It's just going to take a couple of minutes, and what will happen is it'll start to just bubble nicely on the top, which is an indication of turning over. So we can see now how the air pockets are starting to develop. Yeah, we're looking very good. Beautiful. So we'll just give that another couple of minutes on the other side, and then we're going to brush both sides with melted butter. So now we're at the 1.5 hour stage. Oh, the aroma is just absolutely stunning. And the lamb is now lovely and tender. The potatoes are nice and tender. It's just the right consistency. So now we'll just add our prawns, and we're just going to pop them in here and there, and the heat in the pan will finish the prawns just nicely. So I'll give it a little gentle stir, and I'll pop the lid back on, and then we'll be ready to serve. So here we have my Muir agus tir curry, sea and land. Just going to finish it up with a nice dollop of yogurt, and to freshen it up, a nice wee bunch of coriander on there. So that is the Muir agus tir curry with my naan bread. Now the heat in this, it is very, very low. Even with that 2 fat juicy chilies that went in, which were de-seeded, it's cooked right down nice and slowly, and the fruitiness of the chili comes through more than the heat itself. The store cupboard ingredients, everyone's probably got them in their own cupboards anyway. The turmeric, the cumin, the ground coriander. These are basic store cupboard ingredients which come to create a fantastic, tasty, simple curry like this. Give it a shot, see what you think yourselves, enjoy.